Well, a very good morning. Welcome to Finland. Kontiolahti hosting what should be the penultimate round of the Biathlon World Cup. But as yet, we're waiting to hear or get confirmation about Oslo. It looks unlikely as to whether that's going to be held. No decision as to whether the replacement races will be held here or whether this will be the last week of the season. That would be a very sad way to end what has been one of the best battles we've ever seen in the overall World Cups. Mike and Patrick with you once again, and Mike, Kontiolahti's bleak at the best of times, but take the fans away and you might as well be in the middle of Siberia.
It's bleak, but it's a testing course, and the fans, unfortunately, the decision was just made this morning that you can't have more than 500 people in the same place, and so the fans were asked not to come along. Couldn't they let 499 in? Well, with the race going and the backup, it accounts for about 300, so maybe 199. But well, wet weather, it's damp, and the snow conditions, although it is a cooler track, a freezing track, that isn't switched on because it was icing at the very bottom of the snow. So difficult conditions. Yeah, and it's a tough course as well. Anyone who was with us during the World Championships back in 2015 and all the preceding World Cups will remember the big climb up into the range that determines many races. Norway on a high after their success in Novi Miesto. Success of the technicians, really. I think everyone in the Norwegian team applauding their techs. They realised very, very early on, and particularly in that mass start race, Mike, that they had better skis than everyone else. And I think that gave us the clear picture of the importance of fast glide factor in wet, soggy conditions. What a difference it makes. And it'll be interesting to see if the French team can match them today in terms of ski glide. They couldn't do much worse. And wouldn't it be strange if that was what lost Martin Fourcade the overall World Cup? Of course, he got his worst race of the season in that mass start. Here he is, the man, still in yellow, still in red, so he leads the sprint standings. If this is the last sprint today, all he's got to do is finish in the top 6 and the Crystal Globe is his. And if he manages that anyway, he'll stay in yellow for the last sprint should there be another one. But he needs to raise his game. He's been under pressure from Johannes Tingesbø ever since the World Championships in Antholz. And effectively, Johannes Bø is now ahead in the overall once you've taken Fourcade's worst results away.
Уходят на трассу, может быть, более лучших скольжений, посмотрим, что нас ждет. Сегодня у нас спринт, стандартный круг. Организаторы постарались сохранить проект в хорошем состоянии.
Welcome back to Kontiolahti. This is the scene. The range is now empty with zeroing complete, and the stands are empty as well. Miserable conditions. This is the sort of stuff you're used to in the Highlands, Mike. Little drizzle, little bit of wind. It's just above freezing. It feels about -5, and added to that, the snow conditions pretty slow with the moisture around. Let's have a look at the start list. Rasta Guyevs gets bib number 1. Not sure I'd want that today. Anything you've noticed in the start sheet, Mike?
Well, a little surprised to see most of the Norwegians in that first 32 athletes, and the French team opting for groups 2 and 3, so starting between 49, Martin Fourcade, all the way back to Claude at 73. So the French team opting for later, which I think is a mistake today given the soggy, difficult conditions. And I would certainly want my athletes to go out in that first group because, let's be honest, it's only going to become wetter, more soggy. The organising committee have salted the wetter parts to tighten it up. The salt tightens up the track and makes it icy, in fact, but there's still an awful lot of water on the track.
Well, that's always a bit of an issue, always a bit of a gamble as to what is going to happen with the conditions, especially when you put the salt down. How long's the salt going to last? Are the last few runners going to really struggle? We've seen so many times this season that those in the back groups, those in 4, occasionally in group 3, are taking 15-20 seconds per lap longer because the snow conditions have changed. It's not really an even playing field, is it?
It's not, and Group 4, the coaches have that option of putting their highest rank athletes, of course, in the best group. And if your athletes aren't in the top 25, you have to keep full, at least put one of your athletes down in Group 4. But that's the choice, and the success actually gets you into the favoured group, the better conditions.
Well, certainly there aren't as many smiles around as we had in the World Championships in Antolz, when the sun was pretty much burning away for 12 hours a day in the Antolz Tal. What did we have? One snowy day, but even that cleared up, and you know, with the conditions were pretty good by the end.
Yeah, I bet the athletes will be looking forward to that sunshine that we had down in the Alps. It is pretty, and it affects, I used to always say to athletes, weather affects mood and mood affects performance, and you kind of get that tired feeling at the end of the season when it's wet, difficult conditions, and mentally that can affect some athletes.
Yeah, and that's the opportunity for those who've been finishing between 30 and 40 to say, okay, now's my day. Those above me aren't motivated. When you're not motivated, you're not likely to do as well. You're not as focused. So it'd be interesting to see. What about the French? Do you think they'll recover from that disappointment in the mass start, or do you think Emilien Jacquelin's result coming second was enough to keep that sort of team spirit going, which they're all saying is the key to their success this year?
I think the body language as their athletes came across the line, except Jacquelin, they were down in the dumps. Their skis hadn't been good, so let's hope they've put that behind them and they'll be back on top form again today.
The Italians, with Dominic Vindish now their main man, going well. Vindish looking to be on the best form of the season. Christiansen for Norway. Well, this is the warm-up pen, a little bit limited for space. What did you like to do in terms of a warm-up, Mike? How high did you want to get the pulse?
For me, it was all, you did it out on the track, and then you come into this pen, the final pen, with some 10, 15 minutes to go, so it's really trying to calm down. And you see a lot of the athletes smiling, get rid of tension. You know you're just about to unleash into a major battle of physical activity, and then calm in terms of shooting. But so the last 10 minutes, in this last 10, certainly keep stretching, keep the muscles pliable.
But prior to that, you know, obviously you've got to get your breathing rate up, you've got your pulse rate up, you've got to get the blood around the system. Were you doing intervals of sort of 45 seconds plus?
A minute plus, combined with shooting eventually, so the last 10 shots with the raised pulse, just to get that feeling.
So Rastoguyev is underway, and he's certainly looked more consistent this year. His standing shooting has certainly improved this season, so it'll be interesting to see what he does today.
Remember 2 years ago,
yeah,
here, incredible. He dropped his glasses, which cost him 5 seconds. He went back for them, and he lost the race by 5.8 seconds to Shipulin.
Jakub Fak, who has had an okay season. I think 12th place. He probably would have settled for that before the start of the year. And I wonder what his highlight is in his career. Is it that silver? Must be the silver medal from Pyeongchang when he was second in the individual, hitting all the targets.
Yes, and of course a couple of World Championships medals, gold medals. He has had a fantastic career. Ukraine team very much coming into their best form of the season towards the end of the season.
Well, Prima had a bit of a sticky sprint in Nowe Miesto. Was going well at the halfway stage and then missed 3 in the stand. He needs to put that to the back of his mind. Had a much better mass start, finished 13th. In fact, he was higher than that. He was 11th, went clear on both the prones, which is so key in those mass starts. What an extraordinary race that was, with Johannes Tingesbø missing a shot on the first 3 shoots, and each time coming back from a deficit. What did it average? 20-21 seconds, and coming back, getting to the front, then hitting the last 5.
We haven't seen the likes of that for a very long time. The turn of pace there to get himself back up to the front before the next bout of shooting was phenomenal.
Yaliot now for Belarus. PB of 14th, and he got that in Oberhof this year. Sprints have been okay, hitting 9 out of 10 on average. Had a bit of a disaster in Annecy, missed 3 in the prone. I don't think that was a particularly windy day. Annecy, the weather was miserable, wasn't it? We had more rain than anything else.
It's a strange season, of course it has been, and most days we're on wet snow.
Now this man could be the pace setter for the early starters. Johannes Dahle, he's a real fighter, Mike. It's going to be interesting. He's sort of short and stocky, so he's not your typical Norwegian build.
He's not, but he's got that width through the hips, you know, that Shetland pony strength that you need to skate over these tracks, and the chest capacity. He's brilliant. He's only 22-year-old. He's had a fabulous season, Dahle. 9th and 6th last week, and 9th in the sprint, 6th in the mass start.
Mario Dolder is next now. Early days. Who do you think is going to set the fastest split time up to 1.6, which is the first split that we'll get?
I think it's not difficult. Later on, of course, Bib 26.
Okay, maybe I should ask, how far behind is Fourcade going to be at 1.6? Will he try and go with it? Or do you think he'll try and race his own race, knowing that if he gets a top 6 today, the Crystal Globe may well be his?
I think he'll try and stay with it. So Johannes Ting is more likely to set the fastest time, and Fourcade chasing it.
Giegana. Nice to see him racing again. It's been a poor season by his standards, down in 28th in the standings, and he's much better than that. 15th in the last sprint in Novo Mesto last week, so he'd like to repeat. Something like that would be good. Benedikt Doll, one of the unorthodox skiers on the tour. You don't often see a technique that where you could sort of just see the silhouette and you'd know exactly who it is.
Yeah, and I suppose technically, if you were critical, you would pick out some inefficiencies, but that inefficiency, he's normally setting the top 5 fastest ski times. So maybe it's just the visual, the upper body moving a little bit too much.
Yeah, possibly. To me, it just appears the timing isn't quite as crisp as many of the others. Loganov back in action. Doesn't look any happier than he did at the end of the Antolz era. He'd probably be glad to see the back of this season and the controversy all around his previous doping offences. And you can't help but talk about it, Mike, because that is the issue. The question is, as your career goes on and your offence gets further and further behind you, do the public, do the other athletes forget it more and more?
They normally do, but certainly not in Loganov's case. And there was an issue with accreditation, and that's why the police did raid his room at 6 o'clock in the morning. Some other accreditation had been arranged, so it was reason enough for them to take his phone and his laptop.
I think they've got, you know, I understand your point of view that it was harsh on Loganov, but, you know, if you don't do that sort of thing, people think they can get away with it again. And sometimes you're going to be right, sometimes you'll be wrong.
I agree, but, you know, if I would agree that everybody that has spent 2 years away gets a hard time, but for me, there's only one person that gets that hard time, and it's Loganov, and I see that as an imbalance. Because it would be nice to stamp it all out, wouldn't it?
Lapshin, and what can we guarantee from him? That he'll shoot fast in the prone, he'll ski hard, but the accuracy has been a little bit of a problem. Still 74% in the prone, and you know, so often he produces the fastest shooting time, but 74% prone is at least 10% below where it has to be, and 15% where it should be to be really competitive.
I'd like to see, he'll probably show us today he'll get 5 out of 5 rapid fire. Last week he tried it and he missed 3 out of 5 in an instant, and he hit all the stand last week.
Now Leitner, is he going to be the future of Austrian skiing? They've got too many veterans in the team for many coaches' liking. The Landertingers and the Aders have been there for a long, long time now. Nice to see Leitner coming through.
Very much. Talented, extremely talented, medals at junior championships. I think he is the bright future for Austrian biathlon. And I was really surprised last week how the Austrian team's form had dropped. Their ski form had dropped way back. Yes, skis were a factor, but the performances last week, a shake of the head. They were disappointed as they crossed the finish line. 6:51 into the range. This could be one of the fastest times.
Well, we'll keep an eye on the times, because obviously they indicate, one, how hard someone's trying, but also what sort of speed the tracks are running at. On the question of form, Mike, we've just had the World Championships, and there are definitely nations, Sweden included, Austria are one of them, Ukraine, we think, are one of them, who put all their eggs into those major championships. They're not really too fussed about the World Cup. So when you compare them on the World Cup to the Norways and the Frances and the Germanys, Russia, they're way below, but their peak, they're aiming to get their peak during that 2-week period.
I think that is true, and that brings the money in to create your program for the next year, but I was surprised to see them drop off physically by so much. Jakob Falk, it was good last week. Could he go from 5th onto the podium this week? It's quite likely today.
Yeah, I would like to see federations award World Cup positions at the end of the season rather than just a World Championship race. You know, who knows? You could break a ski, you could get a gust of wind. That can ruin your chances for that season and the next season. Whereas the overall World Cup is a very, very good indicator of where you lie in the world.
It's a serious test, isn't it? How you produce results from end of November all the way through till close to the end of March.
I wonder how much time Lapshin has spent in Korea over the last few years. He doesn't want to be there at the moment.
3 weeks at the Olympics.
3 weeks in Pyeongchang, of course.
Yeah. Oh, these hills. I'm hoping to be here in 2 weeks' time for the Masters Championships with a group of 10. And these hills look so easy when you're on them. Especially this hill. And again, made to look so easy coming up this incredible climb.
Well, I beg to differ there. The great shot is as someone comes up the hill, and you can see how long they spend on it, and then a little dot of a skier appears at the bottom of the climb. You realise that it's a long, long way, and you know, this is much longer than your average sort of 25-second hill.
It is, and there are no others like this. Last weekend in Nowe Miesto, it was steeper, but it was only 10 seconds. This goes on for a full 30 seconds.
And then you get to the top, and it goes up again, not so steep, but just enough to kill you off if you push too hard on that early section. So Dale, same sort of time as Jakob Falk coming in. We would have expected that. Rastaguyev's also with a decent time. And Rastaguyev missing 2 on that first prone. What was he playing at there?
You just feel that so far, all right, we've only got 6 athletes, everybody taking their time to build their position and get some recovery in after that major climb. Kurvanen targets this week, counterbalance as you hit, and the factory's only 20 k's down the road will make these targets.
Well, the cameraman, you can tell when there's someone relatively new on the tour because the cameraman doesn't know whether to go left or right to left. Dale obviously shooting from left to right on that occasion, missing the middle shot. Now, Gigener, a clear shoot and a top 10 finish, and I think the whole season will be forgotten. He can just build for 2021.
And we've sympathised all season with Gigener. He's been given Group 4 in every race. Today, he's the only Frenchman in Group 1, so I think certainly ski time is an advantage right now.
Now the French are hoping the weather gets a little bit colder as the race goes on. There is a possibility. 2 hours ahead of UK time.
The cameraman is confused.
Good start, a very, very good start. Now that's encouraging for Gigener. Not a bad insurance policy to have when you've put most of your eggs in one basket. Mike, to have someone like Gigener on Group 1.
Yes, very much. And I was surprised to see Benny Dole in at the same time as Gigener leaving.
Benny Dahl goes to the right and gets himself the green light. Little stumble there, but he's looking in pretty good shape.
Loginov back in good ski form. He's third place into range, 4 seconds behind Dahl.
Oh, he's quick, but loose. So Bjørntegard of Norway enters as Johannes Tingesbø of Norway prepares to lead or leave the start gate. And Johannes has got bib 26, last one in Group 1. That's probably perfect. Or do you think he'd like to be starting behind Pfeiffer and Fourcade and Jacquelin and Phil Maillet?
I think he'd prefer to be behind them, but at least he's got bib 26, so the snow might be more favourable than later on.
Yeah, and it almost means he's certainly going to go hard on that first group, because what he loves, nothing he loves more than Fourcade getting a split that says you're 15 seconds down on a certain Norwegian.
It's affected him so, and isn't it incredible when Johannes Tingesbø was back home becoming a dad. Fourcade won all 4 races.
Yeah, he looked
which
like
he wasn't there. He was born again.
Looked like he did back in 2017, where he got through to the very last race of the season before he was pushed off the podium. Dahl leading, 7:41. Nothing too exciting happening at the moment. We've got a long way to go on the start sheet. Over 100 starters today. Now, what's the time on that? Normally 24, 23.3. He's not changed his tactics, and he's not hit any more than normal.
Well, or he missed one fast, but it's still a 23-second penalty loop, 24 seconds today in the slow conditions.
Yeah, so he saved 2 seconds, lost 24.
It's tough, and it's horrible having to turn left onto that penalty loop. Leitner, before he gets buried in behind those eye blinders left and right, he had a little look at the flags. Surprisingly, on this range, Patrick, we always get a windy conditions here. It's very calm today. And again, everybody taking their time, but that's because of the wall, the steep climb, and then only a further minute 30 skiing into the range. You still haven't quite recovered from the steep climb.
I think rather than playing some fairly soporific music, I'd have a recording of the crowds from the World Championships and just play that over the top of the race.
Well, it would certainly give a different atmosphere. It's quite sad once again that no spectators are allowed to watch these great races, and they put all the stands up ready for what, 15,000 people.
Yeah, well, I suppose we've got an option, Mike. I could do the comms, you do the cheering.
Right, starting from now. Come on, Johannes.
Now, let's see this time. We almost certain he's going to get the green light as he comes through 1.6. But how quick is he? Not quite as impressive as we've seen in the past. Christiansen in second place, 5.2 the margin. And in terms of distance, what are we looking at? 20 metres?
20 metres. I think this next section, so a glide down here, then the big wall, I think he'll pick up more time by the time he gets into the range, maybe 10 seconds.
Yeah, but push too hard on that big wall, Mike, and there's not a huge amount of time to recover. You ever do any pulse measurements at the top of the climb in all these Masters competitions that you do here?
Oh, just on survival.
so when you reach the top, you're near the max pulse.
Yeah.
And then what can you bring it down to before you shoot?
It's so difficult when you've taken it to your, 15 below max, 10 below max at the top of that wall. It's very difficult in the next minute because you're still skiing over the bridge, and then you're still rising all the way up into the range. It's very difficult.
Which begs the question, why do they always host the Masters here?
Because they're the most friendly venue in the world. They're great at hosting those championships.
That's it, free accommodation for you this year.
No, it's a wonderful venue and passionate about their biathlon. Jakob Falk, he needed that last shot. He used to be so good at nailing it, that last shot, putting it down. Pigrushny, his left elbow goes further wide than most, but that's the way he builds his position. More of an A-frame.
Yeah, most people tuck the elbow underneath. We'll get a comparison soon enough. Sapala for Finland now. So, be nice to see him go well. So it's always nice coming to the countries where pronunciation of the athletes is difficult, because the host broadcaster can tip you off.
Have to say, Lachipov is having the ski time of his life, in the same second as Christensen into the range, but pity he's missed that middle target.
Yeah, Lachipov fifth after at the first split, so the order at the moment in terms of ski speed, Johannes Tingsberg leading, Christiansen at 5.2, Rastaguyev, who started early at 7.3, Leigrid of Norway has just gone through in 6.6, and then Tarjebø at 7.5. So again, Mike, 4 Norwegians in the top 5 in terms of ski speed through to 1.6. Have they worked their magic again, the Techs, or do you think it's just that the top nation, they're the best nation to have started in Group 1?
I think the Techs, I think the Norwegian Techs are the best, and the ability to change the ski structures. Oh, we said last week, Philip Horney has some great days, but when he has a bad day, it's quite bad. 3 out of 5 isn't a great start to his race. Yeah, I think the skis again, the Norwegians have been out testing for so long, and they've got it very much right again.
Now, this is where Dahle's build comes in handy. Big, strong base to build on. Now we're looking at a prone target, so that'll be interesting. Is he going to get it?
Oh.
I think he's slightly puzzled by that, Mike.
He is totally confused. He's just thinking they must have felt good in his mind.
Well, I just wondered whether they'd actually switched it back to a standing target. Hope so. Because he looked pretty steady, and he was certainly bemused by the fact that 4 of them didn't go down.
He was totally bemused. The brain was saying they were hits. Johannes into the range. It's 17 seconds faster than anybody. The hill, he's destroyed them all.
He's often missed one on the first shoot, either the first or the last.
The eyepiece is metal. It presses in on his skull every time, but eventually the impact, it can make you flinch a little bit. It's a good start for him, though.
Yeah. Is he on the way to do what he did in Novi Miesto? That was one of the best sprints we've seen so far this year. He went clear. He's got Gigenar to ski with, or Gigenar has Johannes Tingsberg to ski with on this loop. I think that's the way it's going to turn out. And now Gigenar will try and tuck in on his last lap. Loganov, having missed one, under a bit of pressure. Oh, fantastic rhythm. That was a sensational shoot, 21.6. And what you see with Loganov more than anyone else, Mike, is that positive movement just drops the rifle down. It never stays on he's not trying to hold it on the target, he's just moving the sights through the target.
I love that rhythm, and it's a rhythm that really, really works. You can create your own timing every single time you build your position in standing. That's the routine, and it's built into your breathing. I love it, and it works for Loganov. Anatoly, his coach, well, expressionless, but he's happy, very happy to see that the target's going down.
Simon Schemp with what I guess we could call an old school sequence of shooting. Nice to see 5 go down. I'd like to see Simon get a good performance, or a couple of performances here, Mike, simply because I think if it all goes pear-shaped over this weekend, we may not see him next year.
Yes, it would be very sad. Schemp, it hasn't gone well the last couple of years, and hitting the perfect 5, he's 24.9 behind.
That's all right. He's 24 behind the man who, in all probability, could win, and 24 seconds down on Johannes Tingesbø and still get you top 6.
It can. Johannes must have shot very slow. Didn't pick it up at the time, but he came into the range 17 ahead of anybody, and Benny Dahl is only 5 behind him as he exited the range. So, of course, Johannes Tingesbø taking a long time for that first shot.
Yeah, 12 seconds made up by the German on his prone shoot, Christiansen. So, clear on the first shoot. This will put pressure on those starting after him.
Christiansen, he looked so good last weekend. Even when he was fatigued on the last lap, he still kept his discipline, his technique excellent.
More often than not, he's missed one in the stand in the sprints this year, but this time he goes clean, as he did in Antolt, but he missed 3 in the prone on that occasion. So this could be his best sprint of the season, and may well push him close to the top 10 in the sprint standings come the end of the year. This could possibly be the last sprint of the year. Oslo, we're hearing, has been cancelled, but are they going to replace those races and race them here next week? We'll have to wait and get confirmation of that. So Johannes Tingesbø, he's got the company of, is that Benny Dahl just behind him?
That is Benny on his last loop. It is indeed.
Yeah, that's a handy position for Benny Dahl. That will really help his cause here today. And the margin now only 9.7.
So the action on the range, great to see Sepala clearing again, his best ever performance just last week in Novo Miesto. And you know, it's so strange, you have a good race and that confidence comes into play, and this is his hometown, his home range, and once again, great to see him looking so comfortable on the skis and with the rifle. Pigrushny, ski speed was great last week, still great this week. Sadly for him, he's missed one first time in. You can see the range entrance time, he was, well, nearly 50 seconds behind, and that's with the, including the prone missed shot. But he's straight out on the track again. No penalty loop for him in standing. These corners, they have had salt thrown on them, which takes the humidity out, surprisingly, of the water, of the track. But it's beginning to break up as well.
Well, I guess we're getting to the stage of the race where we can look at the splits at 1.6, Mike, and just we've got Jacquelin, who's gone through 8.4 off the leaders. He started 41. Samuelson 8.7, and no one else starting outside the top 40 has managed to get further up the order. Do you think there are any changes as yet?
Well, Vindish I thought would get in there. Vindish is 10.7 behind, but 40th position. There's Anatoly again. He was hoping for Latypov to do a little better.
Now, Benny Doll, who's heading towards the finish. And I think striking lucky and finding himself just behind Johannes Tingesbø before he came in, Mike, that could be worth a good 10 seconds to his time. And should Johannes Tinges go and miss on the standing shoot, who knows, might be worth a top 5 or 6.
Yes, even missing that one target, I think so. So he's matched Johannes Tingesbø in the last lap. In fact, passed him just before the turn off to the finish.
Well, that's a good margin. Very, very healthy margin. Gigenaar into second. 10 out of 10. And Benny Doll, I suspect, would have been on the podium again.
So Johannes, entrance to the range time, he had a 5-second advantage leaving at the range after prone shooting. He's got a 17-second advantage on the leader into the stand shooting. It looks like his strategy today is just taking his time to the first shot and throughout the shooting rhythm. 17.2 is it's slow, but now he's opening up the shooting pace. Oh, fabulous. That's incredible.
Well, that is how to do it. And with 2 successive sprint wins, if he does win today, Mike, that might be the golden ticket to his 2nd successive Crystal Globe. And having sat out 2 rounds of the World Cup, you have to say he has been the best biathlete in the world this year, despite the fact that he hasn't been in yellow for the last month and a half.
It's the most unbelievable athlete. He's only taken part in 15 races. Today is 16, and he's won 9 of those 15. Some statistics, he's a class apart.
Well, Loganov off the boil a bit. 38 seconds lost to Doll of Germany, having shot exactly the same score. But what we do know about Benny Doll, Mike, is he let those rounds go to take, what was it, 7, 8, 9 seconds off Johannes Tinges on that last shoot of his.
Samuelsson has been desperate to have
That's better.
a top 5, a top 3 would be handy. It's looking better today.
Yeah, 8.7 was his deficit at 1.6. Coming into the range, Samuelsson, can't see him for some, right down in 24th place. So he's lost a lot of speed on the big climb. And actually, it's the steep climb, Mike, where the conditions are going to get slower and slower as it gets softer and softer.
Oh, it's just suction now. And Martin Fourcade, I wonder if the French team are regretting that most of their big names in Group 2 and 3, because Martin is was in 40th position through 1.6 kilometers. It was only 10.7 behind, but 40th position.
Is he going to do what his brother did? He may well do. That's a nice shoot. Both Bø brothers shooting 10 out of 10. That must cheer up Ziggy Mazet. That will take his mind off the drizzle here in Kontiolahti. He's not quite as quick, but it's possible. It is possible. We'll see both of the Bø brothers on the podium. He's got a little way to go. Doll on 34. So this is going to be interesting, Mike. We've seen it twice already this season. The Bø brothers on the podium together.
I think it was here at the World Championships in this race where it was Johannes first, Terje Bo third.
It was.
First time they shared a podium together. It'd be great if they could do that again.
Arndt Pfeiffer, solid, good prone shoot from him. He was delighted to make top 3 in the mass start in Novi Mesto. And, you know, he's got to be coming towards the end of his career, but still, Mike, when he has a good day, he knows he can match nearly all the best.
And his movement, Pfeiffer, it looked like he's in his best form last week. I'm amazed that he's been put in Group 3 as well. Garanashev, Anatoly, just letting his coaches know. Anatoly came over here, lives in Moscow, an 8-hour drive from here, and he was based here for youth development in this club and spent many years here doing a great job looking after and developing all the juniors. And of course brought back in as national coach. He was national coach way back in the late 80s, early 90s, and a well-respected coach.
So coming out of the range after the second shoot, the margin was 21 seconds over Christiansen. And Johannes Tingesbø just losing a little bit of time to Christiansen, who's started well. Now, Martin Fourcade, how's the time? 19.5 coming in. He's almost a penalty loop behind already.
A little like Johannes, he's taking nearly 3 seconds per shot.
Well, he's got 5. One of the best in the world at making sure that the first 5 targets fall. Now, watch the clock tick away. Quite a way to ski before the timer will stop for Fourcade. Top 6 to secure the sprint title, should this be the last one. And he's a little bit off the mark, down in 9th place, 13.9 behind. He might just need a 10 out of 10, Mike, to stay top in the sprint standings.
Look at Jacquelin out in second. We didn't really pick up on that. He's hit the perfect 5 and he's only 1.8 behind Johannes Tingesbø.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting one. That is good, but he's done what Dole did and made up a lot of time, because Jacquelin was some way behind, 13 down on Johannes Tingesbø coming in. Now, just a repeat of our current leader's performance. Seppala.
Perfect. Lefty, knows this range since he was a boy, and he's missed the first shot.
Have a look at the trigger finger. Takes that initial pressure.
Oh, he's running out of air.
Oh, that's messy. That's a real shame, especially after hitting 5 in the pro, and he was in a good position. Fillmaier just entering the range for France. Now the time, 22.4, so he's in the... you know, skis were definitely a factor last week. I'm wondering how much fatigue is starting to come in. He's had a really, really tough season, raced every race, and we talked about it last week, the benefits of missing out not 1 round of the World Cup, but 2, because Johannes Tingesbø seems to be in a class of his own.
Very much, and it's not just missing those 6 races, it's the travel, the team life. He got away, he refreshed his thinking, and had an amazing experience in his life becoming a dad, and he's come back from that refreshed.
13.7 the margin, and that puts him into 9th position. He pushes Martin Fourcade down into 10th position. Standings in the Sprint World Cup, incidentally, and we can't take anything as we see it because of the possibility of next week's race not happening at all. We've got Martin Fourcade on 3:06, 18 points behind is Fillmaier, so he's got a good chance if he can nail one here today. Tariabo in 3rd, and then Johannes Tingesbø down in 4th position, 43 points behind. Even if he wins today, Mike, if this is the last Sprint World Cup, Johannes Tinges is not taking this globe, surely.
Unlikely. I do wonder if the races stay here, the way that Martin Fourcade is functioning on his skis, it's without a doubt advantage Johannes Tingesbø if this did go to a final. Hopefully we do get another World Cup next week.
So here he comes into the finish. This is going to be the target time, and he's pushed his lead to 30 seconds over Christiansen. Coming out of the range, it was at 21.7, so he took the initial part of the final loop fairly steady, and then he's just piled on the pressure on the big climb. Jacquelin, oh, Mike, he was 1.2 behind coming out of the range last time. Now he finds himself 20 adrift. This has got to be super quick and an unbelievable final loop. Another 10. He's the real deal, is Jacquelin. You know, his success at the World Championships was no flash in the pan.
No, I thought he looked exhausted last week. He probably is, but he's got that youthful self-confidence, the uncaring kind of attitude that he can still bullishly push on and get on the podium.
He might have clawed back a couple of seconds. He has 15.4. That's not going to be easy. But if there's a man who's going to fight for it, it will be him. And when we saw him in Nowe Miesto, when he was so tired on that last loop, the technique had completely gone. At the moment, he's beautifully relaxed on the skis, looking left, looking right. So well balanced.
I'm impressed. I was just going to relive last week and point out that he did lose some 38 seconds on his last lap. It doesn't look that way today. Smolski from recent good form at the European Championships, at home for him in Minsk.
About 30% of those who finished have gone clear, just under, which is a pretty good record. Normally, what is it, 25% is a good day in the sprint. And Smolski joins their rank. Now, Tarjei Bø, can he just hold off Christiansen, who's sitting at 30.6? He was just behind him. He was some 4 seconds down on Christiansen, going through the 9.3 kilometre stage, so he's not had long, 700 metres to make that up. He's not going to make it. Leitner on 57 is certainly going down. Dahl is just squeezed out by 0.1 of a second, and that is what you get for putting in a lot of effort. He thinks it may be good enough for third, but with Jacquelin on his last loop, Mike, and Jacquelin some way ahead of Tarjei Bø at the start of that last loop.
Well, yes, Jacquelin's had 12 seconds, or is 12 seconds ahead of Tarjei Bø as he left the range. That's a huge margin, 12 seconds.
3 Norwegians, 1, 2 and 3 at the moment. All of them have shot the perfect 10 out of 10. They're going to have a field day in the pursuit.
And I think, yeah, the aspect we've witnessed from the Norwegian team is that they have backed off. They know they ski fast, and Mazet is great at doing mind management. Calm down, you're fast enough to win, let's hit the target. So he's calmed them down on the range, and I really like that change late on in the season.
Now, Pfeiffer's not going to win this. 40 seconds would put him in 5th, should he get to the end with the same deficit.
Remember,
now we should try and get an update on Jacquelin on the final loop.
Yeah, he should be through 8.2 fairly soon. I was just going to say, Germans at the World Championships here in, what, 1999, they took 1, 2 and 3.
Yeah, it was particularly cold weather that day, so that was another ski factor, a technician's day.
Oh, minus 23, it was awful.
Yeah, the championships went on and on and on.
Well, 40 seconds is Pfeiffer. His ski speed was good last weekend. The bib 46, not sure it's an advantage. We said that at the start of the race.
Logging off with the most impressive standing shoot so far today, but Loganoff's ski time not as quick as it was a couple of weeks ago, and Goranichev just throwing one wide. That's a shame. 49.9. If he could stay within a minute, he would have made a top 10, which would have been a great way to draw his season to a close. Martin Fourcade on the range. This is key. Top 6, remember, to ensure he takes the sprint globe. Phil Maillet is his nearest challenger, but Phil Maillet actually is some way off the mark. That's nice. Very, very nice from Martin Fourcade, but it may not be enough to secure the overall globe, despite the fact that he's leading all the way. He may keep the yellow bib right until the last race of the year, Mike, and then have it snatched from him at the end of that.
Well, will it be the end of this week, the last race? Will someone jump in? Will Kontiolahti say, yes, we can stage next week? I hope they can.
Well, what a pursuit it's going to be if it does come down to it. I guess by the weekend we'll know what the score is with Oslo. We've heard it's been cancelled, but yet to have any confirmation as to whether they'll try and replace it here. That would, logistically, would that be all right?
I think it would. Hotels obviously an issue, but I'm sure that they would cope in this area. There's plenty outreaching villages that would accommodate. I don't think that would be a problem.
It's not exactly the high season yet for this part of the world.
As we look at the standings there, look at Fourcade. He's just, what, 3 seconds? 4 seconds ahead of Tarjei Bø at this stage. Could be critical, Tarjei's time.
Yeah, that's a good comeback from Fourcade, down in 8th after the first shoot. So he skied hard on the second lap. And now we'll see what he's got for the final 3.3. Goranichev, we saw miss on that standing shoot, finds himself 1:12 behind. And Lapshin, one of the very, very early starters, outside the top 15 at the moment.
As Sepala comes in, Jacquelin is not losing time at 8.2. He's only lost a second from the range to Johannes Tingesbo. He should be through 9.3 kilometers very soon.
Well, I'll have a little wager with you if you fancy that that gap will grow to 20 come the top of the climb and the entry into the finish. That seems to be where Johannes Tingesbø has been taking time out of everyone. Now, Fillmaier. He really needs to win to think of taking the sprint globe, but 31 behind coming in, that's not going to happen.
Patrick Favre, we saw him there. He must be happy with the shooting. In fact, this is the same shooting score 2 years ago when he finished third. The last time a sprint race World Cup came here, he finished third. He was only 17 seconds off the podium. Not quite as fast today.
29.9. Johannes Tingesbø still leading. Christiansen in second. Bø in third. Doll in fourth. But the French are on their way to the finish.
Johannes Tingesbø, the time is already out, but Tingesbø has a great opportunity to put some risk to the Norwegian wheels and take the second position from Dr. Christiansen. Let's see how it goes. Englishman from France takes the second position, 2025.
Мы ждем к финишу Фуркада, пока он проходит отметку 4-м.
Tulee ammuntaa ja mikäli ampuu puhtaasti kamppailee jopa kärkipaikassa tässä vaiheessa ainakin sijoituksessa tuonne 5 parhaan joukkoon.
Финишную черту пересекает Виндель Доминик, спортсмен из Италии.
Welcome back to Kontiolahti. This is Emilien Jacquelin after his effort here today. Another perfect shoot from him, and coming out of the range, he was only 15.4 behind, kept that at about 16 seconds to the base of the big climb, but as expected, losing another 4-5 seconds on the climb. So second the best that Jacquelin can hope for today, and Christiansen sitting at 30.6 is going down into third. Tarjei Bø is going off the podium, and the French mounting a challenge. Going to be interesting to hear the after-race chat. Did they make the right decision going for groups 2 and 3? Should they have tried to go in group 1 as well? Not a bad effort. He's rapidly becoming France's #1.
I love the way, even when he's exhausted, he keeps control. He doesn't stress.
Fourcade up to 8.2, 25.5. He's got a little way to catch Christiansen, who is just under 5 seconds ahead of him at this stage. But at 8.2, he's still got plenty, 1,800 meters to make up those 5 seconds. He may not be as good as he was in his prime, Mike, but he still has the same head and the same fight.
Oh, and I think the head, he's extraordinary. He has changed biathlon. He is the only athlete, when it came to mass start or pursuits, he wouldn't melt down on the last 5 shots standing. And he's still got that strength today. The mind strength is quite phenomenal.
Here we go. This is where he can get the 5 seconds. He started hard at the base of the climb. I think Sergei Sidik, who's just ahead of him, may have company fairly shortly. He was 25 behind. Christensen on 33. Wow, look at that. That is a phenomenal recovery. 7. So that's 12 seconds he's taken out of Christensen between 8.2 and 9.3. I think Christensen actually, Mike, coming out of the range like a rocket. And he's paid the price on the latter stages. But Fourcade might pay the price for pushing so hard. He might just get ahead of Emilien Jacquelin. And that would be a fitting way to secure the sprint crystal globe.
You know, he really wants this today. This is Fourcade at his best. He's tired. He's physically tired without a doubt, but this is him digging deeper than, well, we saw him last week dig deep. He's got the same thing again this week. Exhausted. and losing a little of his balance.
Jacquelin watching on. His deficit of 22.3 could well be bettered. We're into the last 100 metres. Martin Fourcade is still flying for France. Here he goes, round the last little corner. He could do without the traffic in front of him, but he won't have any problem getting past number 49. That's Dombrovski. Here he goes. Every half second could count. 22.3 the margin he's after. He's going to be inside. Just makes it up into second place. And Johannes Tingesbø, the only man to better Martin Fourcade today. He looked frustrated. He wanted top spot, Mike, but if he got an accurate split coming out of that shoot, the second shoot, 23 behind, he was never going to make that margin up on Johannes Tingesbø.
So impressive. In fact, his track time, he's taken 2 seconds out of Johannes Tingesbø to move himself from 4th to 2nd. That's a great effort. And maybe the temperature now, as local time 5:15, dropping a little.
And that is so important for the overall, Mike. You know, by my calculation, we only had 13 points between them at the start of today. Once you've taken the 2 worst results away, Johannes Tingesbø with that 13 points, add another 6, so we're up to 19 points. That could easily swing in one race. It's a pursuit, and it's a pursuit with high pressure.
And then, of course, relays on Sunday, but massive high pressure on the pursuit.
I just get a feeling we'll see a meltdown from someone. It's going to be a fascinating race. And if we miss Oslo next week and those races don't happen, we're still going to have some climax to the season.
Without a doubt, huge pressure building. Fio Maed's, for me, a big surprise. He's hit 10 out of 10, but still out there 40 seconds behind 7th place.
So, Dessieux, 10 out of 10. Fourcade, 10 out of 10. Jacquelin, 10 out of 10. Dessieux, 10 out of 10. All the big names finding the conditions here very easy. And this is one of the resorts that a lot dread coming to because it's usually so windy.
Oh, 90% of the time, the wind plays a big factor in this race. It did at the World Championships 2015. And for me, that makes it even more exciting.
Yeah, Simon Shem usually goes pretty well when there's no wind. He's gone clear. He went clear on the prone. He started fairly early. Just looking for Schemp. He's not got himself into the top 25 today as we watch Phil Maillet come in. Hasn't matched Fourcade's effort over the last lap. And surprisingly, with 10 hits, 2 weeks ago, you'd expect him to be challenging for the win, but 39.7. The wheels are starting to come off, I think, for Phil Maillet. Fatigue setting in a big way. And I just wonder how much that mass start, where the French had dreadful skis last week, how much that has affected their bodies.
Yeah, it's a factor. You have to push even harder. And when the glide factor isn't there, you get annoyed when you're skiing around, and maybe it is a small factor. He took himself to the wall there last weekend. This is a good time from Heden Salo. Extra weight added onto these barrels are light nowadays. You know, you've got a rifle that's 3.75, 3.8 kilos. Doesn't make it easier to shoot. Feels your pulse through it and any wind that there is, but he certainly made that look easy in 29.9 seconds.
Fabien Claude of France, Mike, has gone through the first shoot with the best time in the French team, bar Emilien Jacquelin, and he started number 74, so maybe they didn't make such a bad decision going a bit later.
It appears so now, doesn't it? The corners, it was splashing earlier, less splash factor now, and even a tiny little bit of icing on the top surface is increasing the glide factor.
Yeah, and the temperature has dropped, what, 1.5 degrees during the race, and that is pretty key. But it's still so soft from the earlier temperatures that you sort of feel that has to sap the strength out of the body.
Yeah, you're not getting the same pace, if you like. So normally, what, 27 kilometers an hour, 26, 25, 25 and a half in these conditions. And you're digging in. It's like running in sand. Your energy is being absorbed.
So who did you use when it came to choosing groups? Were you just on the internet looking at the weather forecast, or did you have a guru that you used to contact?
Oh, I would always try and go earlier, given the option.
But you must have looked at the weather. It must have been a deciding factor.
Absolutely. You had to check the local weather, and that was all. Information's always given out well at the team captain. So the day before, midday, the day before you put your entries in.
But the big teams don't rely on the team captains meeting. They're going elsewhere.
Not anymore. I'm talking about the old days. Nellin, that was very good. Needs that.
Samuelsson started and finished well. He hit 10 out of 10 and is in 10th position at the moment. Nellin at 58.7. If he keeps that, he's got a chance, because 57.7 is good enough for the top 10. Now here is Claude, who we were talking about earlier on. And he joined the rest of the French for the perfect shoot. Whoa,
oh,
that was
so
almost
happy.
as good as Loganov, not quite as quick, 24.5, and the French don't seem to be able to miss. I think we could have our greatest number of clear shoots. We've certainly got the highest number in the top 10 that we've ever seen. 9 out of 10 have gone the perfect score so far.
I'm so happy for Claude. He deserves some good luck after his tragedy earlier in the season. And, well, he was out of favour in terms of the grouping, the best possible group, but he's certainly made every advantage count for him. Patrick Favre, he knows how it works here. The World Championships on this distance back in '99, he came second on that minus 23 degrees day. Very different today.
Sweden, an indifferent season. Is that a fair comment? Certainly, if you look at the sprint standings, we've got Samuelsson, who's down in, what, 33rd position?
Yeah, I think they would even look at almost disappointing season this year with their great expectations after the World Championships, the success at the World Championships in Östersund last year.
Yeah, I've done Samuelsson out. He's in 23rd, not 33rd.
Not bad.
But it's still, you know, by his standards, we'd expect to see him in the top 15 at least. Bukharnikov with a good, clear shoot. I think Loganov was the fastest we've seen in the stand.
Yeah, right. Reaction shooting, pure reaction shooting. That was pretty good from Bukharnikov. And straight after the World Championships, Bukharnikov went back home to the European Champs, raced another 5 races, and you can just feel the energy. He's totally fatigued with 3.3 kilometers left.
Well, it gets to the stage, surely, where you're there and you're participating, but you're not really racing. You're going at your standard speed.
They must all be on that fatigue feeling. Maybe not so much Johannes Tingesbo, having only completed individual races, 16. Of course, he's done many relays as well. All these athletes have done 6 more races than Johannes. Great shooting. You said it from the French team. I'm just trying to gig and I missed one. The rest have been pretty much spot on, 100%.
Yeah, Norway have virtually matched them, except for Bjørntegard, who missed 2. Norway with Johannes Tingesbo clear. Tarjei Bø's gone clear, Christiansen's gone clear, Ligrid has gone clear as well. Now, Dessieux. And by my calculation, top 7 is about the best he can hope for, unless he has managed to claw back 4 or 5 seconds in the last 500 meters. This looks as though it's worth, this attack is certainly worth a couple of seconds, Mike. He's hungry for a top 5. Tarjei Bø on 34. It's going to be close as he comes up round the corner and can see the finish now. Simon Dessieux just missing out on the top 5. Filmé on 39.7. Is he going to survive? It's close. Just misses that. And down into 8th place. But as far as the French go, 4 athletes in the top 8 at the moment. 3 Norwegians, 4 French, and Benny Doll, the only man, Germany, of course, in there, apart from those 2 nations. And those have been the 2 dominant nations all the way through the year.
They really have. Sprinkling of Russia there in the early part of the season in December with Elisiev and, of course, Yeah, Loganov, of course, on the podium a couple of times early season. Patrick Favre on the left, he's the one who came second at the World Championships, 1999. Frank Bideau, is he praying for his happiness that the men's shooting is so good? He'd love the women's shooting to be the same tomorrow.
It may be. Late start for Martin Jaeger. Highlight of Switzerland's season, certainly the women's performances in the relays. They've got some good juniors coming up, Mike, and that's quite exciting for 3-4 years' time.
Very much so, yes. Medals and team medals at juniors. And of course, final flutter of junior races being held in Hochfilzen. In fact, that program's been dragged forward a couple of days to get it done and dusted earlier.
Just looking at the latest starters, Jaeger into 14th place. Well, I think that's a very good indication, Mike, that the snow is getting quicker now as the temperature just goes through that critical stage. He's looking for the cooler parts of the track, which is intelligent skiing from Jaeger. Yes, it's softer, but there's more ice in there than there is water now, and the downhills are going to be rapid.
I think so, and the athletes are going over to the edge as well, where it's less slushy and, as you said, crusty now. And maybe there is a factor, sense at this time of day, to be in the last group.
Yeah, it's not often you see a pond in the range area. It's been unseasonably warm everywhere, but Finland included.
I think this venue, the money put into it, it was a great investment, what, 10 years ago to put this cooler track system. So under the tracks for 2.7 kilometers out into the forest, you've got frozen, you've got rods underneath the tarmac, which is a frozen track. And of course, from the 12th of October every year, you can ski as they are here. You can ski onto this range. It's a great venue, a World Cup venue. And a really good place to take a team early season. I know if I was... and of course, this will be the venue for the first... it's not all classed as a World Cup, but the first international race meet next year. So there'll be many teams training here early November. So Nellin left the range, what, a minute behind, I think it was?
Yeah, he's sort of struggling to stay in the top 20 at the moment. Not sure he's going to manage that. But this is better than he produced last week when he missed one in both the prone and the stands. So he will have climbed at least 7 or 8 places, maybe even better than that. Nellin pretty solid in the World Championships, hovering between 10 and 20 in most of the races. Now, Fabien Claude, this is a really good performance from start number 74. Started a minute after Nellin, and this will cheer him up. Remember, he got a fantastic 3rd place in the individual in Perkuka just days after his tragedy, is the death of his father, and there he is, another clear shoot, another good performance, and he's gone into 11th spot. He's the 5th Frenchman home, which will annoy him because it's such a good performance, and he's only 56, so he'll have a fantastic chase when it comes to the pursuit race here in Kontiolahti. Johannes Tingesbø is going to be the first man away, a 21-second lead over Martin Fourcade. Decision time for Fourcade. He has to beat Johannes Tinges by a decent margin and by lots of places to secure his 8th Crystal Globe.
That's going to be a spicy race. 21 seconds. Well, let's hope Johannes doesn't do what he did on Sunday by missing this one target in each of the first 3 times in shooting.
But not only has Fourcade got to hope that he beats Johannes Tingesbø, he's got to hope that Jacquelin, Filmayer, Dessieux, Claude, that they all beat the Norwegian.
And he'll be hoping Christensen and his brother Otaria can beat Johannes as well to get more points separating them.
So by my calculations, 19 points in it, the advantage at the moment to Johannes Tingis Burt, and that means that he's going to have to push Johannes Tingis out of the top 5, and Fourcade needs to win. Well, another impeccable performance, 10 out of 10 in Novo Mesto. We thought that was probably the perfect sprint race today, Mike. The only difference is he took much longer over the prone shoot. He sacrificed 7-8 seconds on the range for that prone shoot.
And you have to, Mazet will be sitting down and saying, well, you know, right, you push so hard, but you're actually losing. You're giving that incredible ski speed away by recovering on the range 7-8 seconds longer. You know, maybe calm that first lap down, come in and stick to your normal 26, 27 seconds in the range. Who knows? It's working. Why change something that's working? And you often feel better when you lie down longer and just manage your breathing. It's all about the breathing.
But he's well aware that his splits are the ones that the French and the rest of the Norwegian team get. And if it's a big chunk, 15 to 20 seconds advantage, he knows that upsets everyone.
He knows it does, especially Matan. Khalili, how many? 3-4 medals, Junior Worlds. He's very good. He missed one there. And I think he'll be hoping next year, Khalili, that he'll place at the end of the season in the top 10, I'm quite sure. Hugely talented. This is good from Buta.
Just seen Baisho on the range for Japan, Mike. He's not a huge man, but his feet are a long way apart. What in terms of the angles of the legs, did you like to have them, your pegs vertical, or do you like to create the sort of tripod effect?
It was more about bringing your heels pendulum, like a pendulum, under your body. Now the placement is generally wider, so you're pressing you're not having to come all the way in, and you see the athletes touching down. So there's less movement. If you keep wide, you stay wide, marginally. And in terms of standing, the legs locked out, so it's like a horse sleeping. They're locked, but not overly tense. They're not bent, and that just, without muscling, you're kind of locked down through both legs. Just see the trigger there. I thought we might get another closer look, but he started missing. It's like a little ball at the end of the trigger, so the pad of your forefinger, you can feel that trigger allegedly a little easier. You can feel the drag back. It snaps just over 500 grams. As Reinkel shoots, one of the bigger surprises today for me is Vindish. The ski speed he showed us all of last week in Novo Mesto, he hasn't shown us it today. He's 39th, nearly 2 minutes behind, and that's missing 2 targets. Schemp, we mentioned Schemp, he's only missed 2 as well, but he's over 2 minutes behind, 2 minutes and 1 second. And at the moment, to 60th place, it's 2 minutes 29. That's down to Bartko.
Now, Jaeger, oh, what a shame. He was right up there after that prone shoot, was knocking on the door of the top 10, but 2 misses in the stands, going to push him at least 15, probably 20 places down on that. And that's a disappointing finish. Must have been feeling pretty good. I think Johannes Dahle's had a bad day, Mike. He's looked so promising of late. Slightly surprised to see him missing a massive target.
Oh, 5. He's only hit 50%. He won't be starting in the pursuit competition. 73rd position.
Takazaki of Japan has missed out. Dombrovski's missed out. Dominic Landerting has missed out, having missed 4. Other big names, Dale, of course, we've mentioned. Strecki of the Czech Republic missed 3, 3:21. And the margin to 60 at the moment, remember we always say it's around the 2:30 mark, 2:29 between 1 and 60. Why is that so consistent?
And it was the same 25 years ago, when the pursuit competition came in, so you needed to make that cut-off for top 60. I don't know. It's quite extraordinary. Sometimes, some tracks, you get a 1:50 on an easier track.
I guess that's why logarithms work, because so many things stay the same.
You would think as the years go on, I mean, at the sharp end of the race, the shooting is faster, the skis are faster, the preparation is faster, and the shooting's faster.
Well, that's the fastest of the day. I think Ranta actually just showing off there. Wanted a little bit of glory as he went out, but missed number 5, which has cost him. But 20.5, that's rapid.
That's brave, but it can create the misses.
Salu for Finland, another man who's going to miss out on the pursuit here on his home tracks. He'll be disappointed with that. And there are so many on the World Cup Tour who maybe only get to do one, if that, in terms of the pursuit, and don't get to do any mass starts. So half the tour might probably never do a head-to-head race in the season, apart from the relays.
You know, so many of the smaller nations, the nations with less funding to have the big waxing and support staff. Talking of the big teams, the American teams, of course, the 3 lads entered today. They haven't raced. They're on that flight back home, getting back home as quickly as they can, given the current issues, COVID-19. Salo, 80th position, 3 targets missed.
Yeah, we often talk about ski speed, and you know, you can understand people for thinking, oh, it's just sour grapes, but we saw it last week more than we've ever seen it, with the 4 Norwegians, 5 Norwegians just streaming to the front of the field on the downhill, and a massive margin between them and France. That is usually where the minor teams are, with skis even slower than the French, which is why you never see them. 6, 7, 8% slower on the ski means you've got to put in the same performance as Johannes Tingersbø just to finish in the top 50.
It's an incredible factor. It's a huge factor. Yeah, it's an underestimated factor from the viewing audience. You just think these big teams, but it is about backup and great running skis.
Rustic for misses, so at the top of the table, very impressive shooting. That's amazing. 13 out of the top 15 have shot the perfect score, and we must have reached 20 in terms of overall clear shoots.
More, I think, yeah.
33%'s a good day.
27 have shot the perfect score. 27, that's one of the biggest days. Ruhpolding you normally get in the men's race between 21 and 24. Stats again, they're pretty consistent over the years.
Yeah, so we're on.
But 27 is one of the best days of perfect shooting.
We're on the 25% mark as we see Kalili coming in. We've seen him in the Russian relay team on a couple of occasions this year. He's starting to make his mark, but 154 leaves him outside the World Cup points. World Cup points going to the top 40, as I'm sure you know, and he is not going to be challenging for any honours. So in terms of the results as they stand, Mike, could not have been any better in terms of the overall World Cup. 19 points now between Johannes Tingesbø and Martin Fourcade. There may only be one race to go this season. If Martin Fourcade wins it, Johannes Tingesbø has to finish top 4, not top 5. He's got to go top 4, so that would really put the pressure on. There's going to be some pressure on the range. The first shoot's so important. Where's it going to be won and lost between those two?
Oh, it's just going to be, and I think, and I feel for Johannes Tingesbø with the current situation, just finding out today that Oslo is cancelled, that changes the whole mindset very quickly. Johannes was expecting to go to Oslo and still have an easy chance of nibbling away at the points and winning the overall. Now it's coming to a crunch now on Saturday, unless Kontiolahti or another venue can step in late. It's very unlikely to stage the final World Cup. If anybody does, I would imagine it has to be Kontiolahti for next Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But then long term, they've organised the Masters, International Masters Biathlon competition, and maybe that will affect their decision in terms of holding a second World Cup here. So it's huge pressure now in an instant on Johannes Tingesbø to lead out by 21 seconds. Martin Fourcade, the great, chasing him, and Martin's shooting has been on the ball. He knows that when he has to hit targets, he can. He backs off, he makes sure they go down.
And if you were Johannes Tingesbø and thinking, okay, I'm likely to miss at least 2, would you be going flat out, or would you just do what he did in the World Championships in the mass start?
I think that's, where he stayed with the pack. His shooting had dropped off there. Remember, of course, that nervous twitch and prone shooting. He had to back off there. So I think your second option would be the safest, to just calm it down. Certainly not let Martin have contact with him in the first lap, of course, 21 seconds. But Johannes is not the athlete that can kind of hold back when he's out front by 21. So it's going to be a very, very interesting race.
And 21, he'll surely be thinking, if I can gain 5, I've got a penalty loop. That's a good insurance policy. And if he can go clear on the first shoot, then his chances of winning the overall go up massively. So I just think that very first shot on the first shoot is going to be the telling one.
Very much, but we saw, as Rankill comes in, we saw Martin Fourcade's desire today. He's exhausted, his ski speed's been off the boil, but he fired that last lap faster than anybody else in the world today. That's Martin Fourcade's desire for an 8th overall World Cup title.
Yeah, and had he finished down in 5th, which is where he was coming out of the range, as opposed to 2nd, that would have been worth another 14 World Cup points and would have allowed Johannes Tingesbø to finish outside the top 7-8. So that, that effort has certainly kept his hopes alive of lifting the globe for a record 8th time.
And when Martin came in for his stand shoot today, he was off the pace by a decent margin. The pressure was so much on for him to hit those 5 and then produce the fastest last lap time. So it's certainly not over yet.
So Johannes Tingesbø has 19 points and 21 seconds. The 21 seconds could be key.
Sorry, just thinking, with there being so many French flags and Norwegian flags up there as well, I wonder
whether there's any team instructions. I doubt it somehow. Partly because the French all know that they can win, but it's going to be an awkward situation if they find themselves ahead of Martin Fourcade and with Johannes Tingesbø behind them.
There's a lot to fight for, and then maybe not team orders, but the athletes would respect and possibly, certainly Tarjei Bø would think, well, I can't beat my brother by 1 place to cost him the overall Crystal Globe for the season. But no, athletes are not designed that way either. You start your race, you have a finish line, you push as hard as you can within that period of time.
Well, Norway look as though they're likely to win the Nations Cup. And a lot of that's due to their better relay performances this year, Mike. I know the French won the World Championship relay, but on the whole, the Norwegian men have been slightly better in the relay, particularly the last relay last week, which I think cost France their chance of taking the Nations Cup. But who would you say is the strongest team? in the men's?
It's been so close, hasn't it, all season? But the Norwegians, because they can always put it together in the relay, they've had such confidence all season in terms of relay racing. The French team, you'd put them on the top spot in the podium every time, looking at their previous races, but it hasn't quite worked out in relay scenarios. And of course, the man who's come third today, Jacques Alain, thinking in 8 shots last weekend. He'd only fired 7, immediately picking up a 2-minute penalty in the relay. It was a huge negative for them.
Jacaranta across the line, no improvement on his deficit, 3:03, and some way off that 2:30, which was required to get himself a start in the pursuit.
He's only 22. I think we'll see a lot more of this man, Ranta, in the future. He's done well at junior level. And in terms of World Cup racing, that's not bad at all, missing just 1 under the pressure of performing at home.
There's Benny Dole, who's had a very good race today and has got himself a top 6 finish, 34 behind, started early on, number 9. And he's now got 48 hours to recover before the pursuit. He's going to be starting alongside Tadej Bo, Christensen just ahead, so he's got good company, and he might be a mover and shaker in the pursuit on Saturday. Single mixed and mixed relays on Sunday. Patrick Favre just
getting the story.
Well, I wonder what that was all about.
And interesting, an Italian coaching the French team. Of course, there's so much that's changed over the years, hasn't it? And I think that's why teams have been able to bring themselves higher. There's so much exchanging of knowledge. Last thing you want to do is go the wrong way in a World Cup race. He went over the bridge back into the range. He should have turned right, and sadly, that will cost him 2 minutes. You're only allowed 2 meters away from the race path line.
Well, it's not going to make too much difference to his position. He was out of the running for the pursuit as it was, and no change to the leaderboard. Johannes Tingesbørdis, who takes the win, 22-27, his 2nd successive sprint win, and he now tops the World Cup in terms of points. So let's have a look at the top 10. Beur Foucault, Jacques Alain, the familiar names who are still going strong, the ones who were the stars of the World Championships in Antolz 3 weeks ago. Christensen and Tadej Bo 4-5, Benny Dole, best of the rest effectively with the French-Norwegian domination. And Arndt Pfeiffer again, a podium last week, top 10 this week. There's still some life left in him.
There is 40 seconds to find though on Johannes, but he'll be looking at there's less than 30 to make it up onto the podium on Saturday, sorry.
And a mass of clean shoots. What do we have? Over 25 of the 104 athletes shooting the perfect score. We got just about 25% perfect hit rate, which is exceptionally good, but Contilati uncharacteristically quiet in terms of wind conditions today, and very, very quiet in terms of crowd noise. No one allowed in, and that is going to remain the same for the rest of the week.
No spectators, but nice background music.
Everyone's allowed their own choice. Important things, we've got the women's sprint tomorrow, same start time, 16:30 local, so 2:30 if you're watching in the UK. Hope you can join us for that, and a real battle going on for their globe as well. Well, they'll all head back to the town of Joensuu, and there may be a little celebration in the French camp. They've done exceptionally well today, and Emilien Jacquelin getting 3rd place. Must have thought 2nd was coming his way when he saw he was a fair chunk ahead of Martin Fourcade. He was 9 seconds ahead of Fourcade coming out of the range. But if there's one man who likes starting behind the favourites, it is this man. He can pull something special out of the bag on the last loop. Doesn't seem, no matter how exhausted he is, and he's done it today to keep his hopes of winning the Crystal Globe alive. Second place, 54 points. If every single race of the season counted, maybe he would. Well, he would certainly be hot favourite to take it. But here's the man who's come back strong since his absence from the Tour. Races 8, 9, 10, 11. That, of course, was Oberhof and Ruhpolding. He missed those, and he certainly looks fresher than anyone else in the final part of the season. Johannes Tingesbo with another win. Mazet likes it, and so he should. 2 consecutive sprints hitting the perfect score, and that is his 48th World Cup win, the half century just round the corner.
Johannes, congratulations, what a great performance. Can you tell first of all about the competition today?
It was quite nervous competition. I felt pressure from start today, and took time on my prone shooting to try to secure 5 targets. It's a bit of a risk when you shoot that slow, but when I hit 5, my bet was a good bet. And yeah, coming into the standing, I was with quite high pulse, but yeah, 3 seconds before I start to shoot, I felt relaxed, and I was quite confident.
Can you tell us how difficult it is to prepare for this competition when you know the overall is at stakes and so much can still happen in any possible form?
Yeah, it's big competitions and a big fight for the World Cup overall. But even though it was the same for last week, I have to just take race by race, and yeah, with all things in the news picture nowadays, you have to just pretend that you will follow the normal race procedure. And this morning we heard the Holmenkollen was cancelled, so we don't really know what happens yet. So it's a little bit harder to focus for the race, but you have to just pretend that you do the normal race the next days ahead.
Thank you, congratulations.
Thanks.
A little bit of self-kidology just to keep him motivated. Very difficult for him, Mike, because if there are 3 races left of the season, he can pace himself. If it's just 1 race, he has got to go to town in terms of mental preparation.
Incredible. And that's, you know, when he heard that Oslo was cancelled, his home city is cancelled, as he said, he felt the pressure severely this morning. He coped well.
So that's it from Kontiolahti. Thanks for your company. Do join us tomorrow. The women's sprint at 2:30.
Welcome to join us for the closing ceremony of the Ultimate World Cup Biathlon men's 10 kilometers sprint competitions. The prizes and flowers will be handed over by the IBU representative Peter Bergong and the president of the Finnish Biathlon Federation, Mr. Landesmäki. Third on today's competition, representing France, Elodie Chaplin.
I was 1.8 behind you in top last.
Second representing France, Martin Fourcade.
You were with him? And then you made extra slow. Yeah. Oh, you have
And the winner of the men's sprint competition here in Kontiolahti, representing Norway, Johannes Tingesbo. Siinä kärkikolmikko, there's the top three for today. Johannes Ingesbø, Martin Fulkar, Emilie Jacquelin. Kilpailun neljäs, fourth, Vetle Shasta Christiansen, Norway. Vides, fifth, from Norway, Takke. Sixth, representing Germany, Benedikt Dahl. And there's the full top six today with Johannes Ingesbø, Martin Fulkar, Emilie Jacquelin, Vetle Shasta Christiansen, Takke and Benedikt Dahl.
Yeah, 1 2 1 2 1 2, ready to go on a bit of ski jumping. World Cup standings are there. Oh, is it paper? Well, a very good afternoon and welcome to a sad-looking Trondheim. I'm afraid there's some bad news for ski jumping fans because of the restrictions that the Norwegian government have put on the gathering of crowds and sporting events. The next couple of rounds of the
Still we have here Biatlon family and we work
That's true, and sport continues.
Всем спасибо и до завтра на женском спринте. До встречи на
Matan, second place and very, very strong last loop. Can you tell us about the conditions out there and how did you fight?
The conditions were really good as well in shooting and on the track. The crew out there made a wonderful job to make the track ready because yesterday was really difficult with the snow. And I must say I'm really satisfied, really proud about my competition. I give it all, so I have nothing to regret. Johannes was simply a fit higher than I was today, and When it's like that, you just have to congratulate your opponent, and as I told, I'm satisfied. I have nothing to regret, and I will anyway try my chance on Saturday pursuit.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thanks. Emilian, a new week, but again, clean shooting and a podium. How does that feel?
I feel pretty great. I thought with all season long I will be tired after Nove Mesto. I felt tired mentally. You know, I just wanted to be back home, and yeah, today I was another time focused on my skis and my shooting, but with only pleasure. Just have pleasure to skiing. You know, with this virus, we don't know what will happen next week and next days. So I just wanted to have fun, and yeah, on shooting it was the same thing. I was just calm, without stress, and I just wanted to make my job. So yeah, it's quite a perfect day, but for sure Martin stole me the second place. I wanted to be second behind Johannes, but yeah, Martin finished really fast. So yeah, I'm happy to be back on the podium.
As you should be. Congratulations.
Thank you.